welcome to the deep dive. Look, if you're leading an IT organization, you're constantly juggling change, right? Zero trust, cloud costs, it's endless. But today, we're digging into something different. It's external, it's, well, let's face it, intensely political, and it's profoundly human. We're talking about these huge shifts in U.S. immigration policy, especially the ones hitting the H-1B visa program hard.
That's exactly right. And our goal today, our mission, if you like, is really crucial. We need to get past the headlines. We need to translate what feels like abstract policy into the real strategic, financial, and frankly, human impact on your IT talent strategy. How does this actually affect your operations?
Yeah, because what we're seeing lately, these aren't just minor adjustments. We're talking about changes that fundamentally reset the economics of finding and keeping global talent. It feels like a once-in-a-decade kind of disruption to how IT staffing has traditionally worked.
Absolutely. And that disruption, it starts with a pretty immediate and honestly painful hit to the budget.
Okay, let's unpack that, the new financial reality. We're hearing about a really substantial hike in the cost of hiring international talent. Some reports are suggesting, that the total fee for an H-1B petition, especially if you're a company that uses a lot of them, could be getting close to, $100,000 per person? When you factor in all the extra fees, legal help, maybe premium processing.
Yeah, and that figure, it's not just, a simple application fee. It's really the cumulative cost. It seems designed to make companies think twice or three times about relying heavily on the program, and that forces an immediate, almost brutal calculation for IT leaders. What used to be a standard way to get specific skills, yeah, it had red tape, but it was manageable. It's suddenly become this massive capital investment.
Precisely. So think about a medium-sized IT department needing, say, 10 specialized data scientists or maybe security architects. Suddenly, that's potentially $1 million just gone. Poof. Right off the strategic budget.
Yeah.
It instantly changes the question from, okay, where do we find the best people, to, can we actually afford to bring in this specific global expert? Is it worth reserving six figures for this one hire?
Exactly. That pressure, that intensity, it means IT organizations have to apply immediate, really intense scrutiny. You're basically forced now to save the H-1B route only for those absolutely unique, can't find them anywhere else, mission-critical roles. If there's any way to find or train someone domestically, even if it takes a bit longer, the financial push to avoid the H-1B process is it's overwhelming.
So that brings up an immediate question for you listening right now. Are you looking at your, say, 2024, 2025 hiring plans with a kind of zero-based budget approach? Are you making sure every single H-1B sponsorship you're considering really is for someone irreplaceable, someone mission-critical? Because that cost, it's definitely not trivial anymore.
And if we connect this new cost structure to, the wider IT world, the impact is already sending ripples through that huge network of third-party vendors, the whole onshore, offshore outsourcing model. That sector really is ground zero for this disruption.
Oh, absolutely. Those big outsourcing and consulting firms, they've historically leaned really heavily on the H-1B program to staff U.S. projects, cost effectively. They just can't absorb a six-figure hit per person.
Yeah.
So those new fees, they're inevitably going to get passed on to you, the CIO client. And sometimes that might just wipe out the whole cost advantage of using that partner in the first place.
Right. So as a CIO, you've got to anticipate this. You need to understand and probably respond to the strategic pivots these vendors have to make. We're seeing sort of three main strategic shifts happening right now, pretty much across the board with service providers.
Okay, so what are those key pivots? And maybe more importantly, what are the immediate risks that come with each one for the CIO?
Well, the first one, and probably the most obvious, is just faster offshoring. Since bringing large teams onshore via H-1B is becoming maybe financially impossible for routine work, vendors are speeding up the movement of work, especially things like development, testing, run the business tasks to offshore locations. Mostly, we're seeing remote delivery from India picking up pace.
Accelerated offshoring. Okay, that sounds like it saves the vendor money up front, sure. But doesn't that also bring in more governance risk, maybe dilute the immediate kind of cultural fit or time zone advantage we often want for critical projects? How do you, as a CIO, manage that trade-off?
That's the real strategic tension, isn't it? The second shift we're seeing is more focused locally. Vendors now have a much bigger incentive to hire more U.S.-based talent or maybe use more local subcontractors just to cut down their H-1B numbers. And of course, this increased demand for specialized local skills, it's probably going to push up domestic IT wages even further. And the third shift is strategic nearshoring, using places like Canada or maybe countries in Latin America. That lets them keep that crucial time zone alignment, but completely sidestep the U.S. visa costs and headaches.
So from a risk perspective,
Yeah.
how fast can a CIO really expect vendor teams to stabilize after such a big pivot? The immediate worry for your projects has to be team stability, right? Are the people who started this work going to be the ones finishing it 6 months down the line?
That's the number one concern, absolutely. Your risk profile now includes, potentially unstable vendor teams, maybe shaky talent pipelines for them, and the knock-on effect of possible project delays or even dips in quality. So when you're looking at your current third-party contracts, you need to immediately check those clauses. What do they say about passing on fees? About staffing flexibility? Are you having really open, transparent talks with your providers about their backup plans? How are they going to maintain stable, experienced teams for you? That conversation needs to be happening like yesterday.
Okay, this level of volatility, it really screams for a strong long-term hedge. And that naturally brings us to technology, doesn't it? If vendor stability and talent pipelines are the immediate fires to fight, where do we find a more systemic way to shield ourselves against this kind of ongoing uncertainty? And the answer seems to be pointing towards AI and automation.
Exactly. This whole new visa landscape, it kind of reframes technology. It's not just a nice to have investment anymore. It's becoming an essential strategic tool for managing talent risk and, frankly, getting the absolute most out of the human talent you do have, whether they're in-house or vendor partners.
So how does technology actually build that workforce resilience? Can you make that tangible for a CIO?
Yeah, we see it working in, I'd say, three key areas. First is augmentation. We need to automate the repetitive stuff, the low-value, high-volume tasks. Think about automating level 1, maybe even level 2 incident responses, routine server provisioning, code dependency checks, that sort of thing. Doing that frees up your really skilled people, onshore or offshore, to focus only on the complex, innovative work that actually drives the business forward.
Right, make that six-figure human investment deliver truly high-value output. Makes sense.
Precisely. Second, generative AI tools. They're now really helping drive innovation even when teams are spread out. They can speed up development cycles, help prototype solutions way faster, make troubleshooting across global teams much smoother. Technology basically ensures that innovation doesn't get stuck just because your teams are separated by borders and, well, complicated visa rules.
And the third way, that seems to tie directly back to the resilience point you made earlier.
Yeah, it's about building a fundamentally stronger operating model. When you integrate these automation tools deeply, you reduce your reliance on any single talent pipeline, including the now very volatile H-1B program. It helps you build an organization that's structurally designed to handle these external shocks, these policy earthquakes, without completely derailing your delivery schedules. But, while we're focusing on costs and strategy, we absolutely cannot skip over the long term, the more empathetic risks this policy creates. There's a very real danger here of a significant brain drain. You have to remember, the H-1B visa has traditionally been that vital bridge for highly talented international students, the F-1 visa holders who study at top U.S. universities, to then join the U.S. workforce.
And now that bridge has this incredibly expensive, almost prohibitive toll booth right at the entrance.
Exactly. And these new financial hurdles, they might just push these incredibly skilled graduates to look elsewhere, to pursue careers in countries with more stable, more predictable immigration policies. Think Canada, the UK, Germany. This isn't just a short-term problem. It's a long-term risk to the nation's whole competitive edge in innovation. And practically speaking for you, it shrinks the future pool of local talent you might tap into down the road.
And even within our own teams domestically, we need to recognize the human impact, right? The uncertainty around vendor changes, maybe contract talks, just the sheer cost involved. It can create real anxiety among our in-house staff, especially if they work closely with third-party folks whose own careers suddenly feel a lot less secure because of policy shifts.
This creates a really critical, maybe even defining moment for IT leaders. Your communication has to lead with empathy and absolute clarity. You have to reassure your existing valuable team members that their roles are secure, that the company sees these challenges and is proactively tackling them. You need to explain the strategic investments you're making, like automation, like diversifying staff locations, precisely to ensure team stability. A lack of communication right now, that can be almost as disruptive as the policy change itself.
So, as a leader, you really have to ask yourself, what concrete things are you doing right now to proactively communicate stability, to address that feeling of unease that policies like this inevitably stir up within your teams. That kind of empathetic leadership, that feels like the real differentiator in getting through this kind of environment successfully. Okay, let's try to bring this all together. What's the path forward? We need concrete steps. It feels like a two-pronged approach. Short-term damage control and then building long-term structural resilience.
Yes, spot on. On the short-term front, three things are just paramount. First, you absolutely have to audit all your vendor contracts immediately, like right now. You need crystal clear negotiated terms on how these new H-1B fees are going to be handled. Will they be passed on? Will those specific resources be swapped out for local talent or maybe nearshore alternatives? Get that nailed down.
Okay, audit contracts first. Second, you have to double down really aggressively on your internal upskilling and reskilling programs. You need to cultivate those specialized skills you need from within your existing workforce as much as possible. Reduce that external dependency starting today.
And third, prioritize retention like never before. Think about it. The cost and uncertainty of trying to replace a current valued H-1B employee now, it's huge and unpredictable. So keeping the great H-1B talent you already have, that's probably your best short-term cost avoidance strategy, full stop.
Makes sense. Okay, those are the immediate fire drills. Looking longer term now, what structural shifts do IT leaders really need to commit to?
The long-term game really dictates embracing a truly hybrid talent model. That means seriously investing in a globally distributed workforce. Leveraging talent in different countries isn't just about cost anymore. It's about diversifying your risk, geographical risk, policy risk. Then you have to sustain that investment in automation we talked about. Make it part of your DNA so your core processes are shielded from future policy shocks.
Oh, why?
And finally, forge much stronger, much more deliberate partnerships with local universities. Work closely with domestic institutions to build a reliable, predictable pipeline of local talent, especially for those entry-level and maybe even some specialized roles. This directly helps offset that brain drain risk we mentioned earlier. So, if we wrapped up this deep dive, the high cost of the new H-1B landscape forces tough vendor decisions, demands difficult budget choices, and critically, it makes AI and automation essential tools for strategic resilience, not just nice-to-haves. Getting through this successfully, it's going to require foresight, real transparency, and a very strong people-first focus.
Right. And here's maybe the essential takeaway for you, the listener, to really chew on. In this new reality, maybe leadership isn't just defined by how well you manage your tech stack anymore. Maybe it's defined more by how compassionately and how strategically you manage your people through this turbulence. So the question to leave you with is, how can you make sure your evolving IT operating model doesn't just react to this policy crisis, but actually transforms it into a defining moment of strength, stability, and resilience for your organization?